I'm Tara Tyrell, and we are here as always with Dr. Margaret Bourdeaux and Professor Juliette Kayyem of the Belfer Center. This week's question comes from Twitter. We had the question, quote, with the info that we have now, would you send your kids to camp this summer if they open with social distancing protocols in place? I'd like to go first to Margaret to get her perspective medically, and then Juliette to get her perspective on that risk calculus. Margaret?
Yes, hi. Yeah, I'm getting this question a lot as we all try to make plans for the summer. The short answer is no, I don't feel comfortable, but let me tell you what I'm looking for. There's been a lot of talk about, every state standing up its contact tracing program to try to kind of get everyone's arms around this virus. And the thing that I'm really looking for to see whether a state or a city or a community has a strong contact tracing program that is robust enough to actually be able to identify and rapidly control the virus is really looking at how they're identifying new cases. So you'll know your contact tracing program is working if all the new cases that are being identified are coming through that contact tracing program. In other words, the people that are getting infected are people with known exposures to the virus. And then you know that a place really has the capability to see where it's coming and to get on top of it when it emerges. And so, unfortunately, right, that, individual camps and individual schools don't have that capacity to run contact tracing programs. Those are really municipal or state level programs. And so, where the camp is opening and operating, I'm really looking at that state to see whether that's how their contact tracing program is performing.
Yeah. Great. And Juliette, would you like to weigh in on just the risk calculus of basically sanity versus sanitation in this case?
I mean, I have to agree with Margaret. I like what she's saying in terms of the specifics, but part of me is I sort of do things with a sledgehammer, just sort of, okay, I'm just writing off the summer because I am not confident and certainly not confident with my kids that various programs will have their act together in time. Now, I've seen these emails. I don't want to hurt these businesses if they are serious, but my default as a mother is that the summer, my kids will continue to social distance in some capacity. It might get better by July, but probably not by June. And we will see whether we have the capability of protecting them. And it's really unfortunate, but I think Margaret's like I said, we're just being more cautious than even some of our public leadership at this stage. And it's a bummer, but much about 2020 is a bummer. So this is probably one of the lesser bummers of all the bummers of 2020.
Thank you, Juliette. And Margaret, given now that we are unfortunately looking into this long, lengthy summer, what can we do outside that will still allow us to enjoy the summertime safely?
This is really the time when people are having to really dig deep here and to figure out how they're going to move forward. One of the set of stories I've really been interested in following are, I read about a couple places in Canada, for example, that have a policy by where you identify another family that you're going to quarantine with. To sort of divide up, tasks and responsibilities, and everybody kind of in that bubble, is, agrees to the same rules and make sure, they're safe. And I was thinking that this is such an interesting strategy. And I think the reason I'm curious about it, and I am starting to lean towards trying to recommend it and trying to figure out how I'd make it work, is that I think most people are doing that anyway, kind of informally. I think if we were to put out some guidelines about how to actually do that and make sure everybody in those bubbles would be safe, and also allow for folks to actually get more work done and divide up childcare responsibilities and shopping responsibilities. I think that's anyway, I'm getting to the point where I'm really giving a lot of thought to that. And I think that might be one thing that we could start to do to try to have us be more mentally healthy and weather this coming summer a little bit better.
Well, thank you, Margaret. Hopefully this belated Mother's Day episode brings you moms and dads out there a little bit of comfort. As always, this is Questions from Quarantine. Please feel free to hashtag Questions from Quarantine for your chance to be answered next week. Thank you.